Hi everybody, so thanks Emil for joining us today for our sessions. It's teaching and learning productivity hacks using Canvas, Zoom and Microsoft apps. So it's myself as Lauren Marr and my colleague Shane Cronin are going to be delivering the session. So I'm going to kick us off with some of the Canvas productivity hacks, and then I'm going to pass it over to Shane, who will run through some Zoom and Microsoft apps with you. So first of all, I'll just give you a quick welcome. So we're going to start off, as I said, with Canvas, Zoom, Microsoft, and then we'll finish off with some help and supports then if we have some time. So no need to delay there. So we'll jump straight into it there. We have our Canvas productivity hacks. So some of the things that we're going to be covering in this part of the session are going to be the Canvas account calendar, delete function, some of the new improvements that are made to the announcements and the discussions features. And then we have some different links that we can work off of. We're going to have a look at some of the page rollbacks and grade rollbacks and how to, add some display multiple documents and tables and how to reorder. And then we'll finish off with some video recording in Canvas before I hand it over to my colleague Shane. So I'm just going to switch into Canvas there. And so I just want to show you in our Canvas. So when you're in your dashboard, it'll look like this. And on the side here, we have our menu with the calendar option here. So for anybody that's not familiar, this is our calendar and you can turn on the settings here. So that'll display anything that you have in your modules. So I'm not actually a lecturer, so I don't have a lot in here at the moment. But if you had your due dates, if you had Zoom sessions, they'd all show up here in your calendar. So what I just wanted to show you here today is our other calendars here. So this is new. And so you'll need to opt into this and subscribe to it. So what you need to do is when you come into your calendar here, you'll see you have this option for other calendars. So if I click on that little plus icon there, you can see I have the option now to add a calendar, and this is a calendar that we have pre-populated and made for you. So this is our Munster Technological University calendar. So if I just give that a click to turn it on and save those changes, we can see here now that everything in this calendar has been taken from the academic year planner. So you can see here that we have all our Kerry and Cork important dates. So it'll tell you the semester 2 and what weeks we're in, when the semesters begin, any breaks that we have come throughout the semester, and any bank holidays and any kind of just important information. So everything is displayed there, and it's pre-populated for the rest of the year. So you can see here as I go through, all of the dates are in there for you, and you can keep track of everything there without having to look for the planner every time that you're looking for it. It's a nice, handy new feature that's been incorporated into Canvas so that you have everything handy here for you in the calendar option. So I'd really encourage everybody to pop into their calendar and just turn this on. As I said, just press your little plus icon there and you can add your Munster Technological University. I can also click on this little box here and turn it off if I need to, and turn it back on then if I need to see it then. So one of the next little hacks that we're going to show you is one of our favorites at the TEL is the undelete function. So we want to go into a sandbox module here. So this is just my own sandbox module that I work off of. So if I've accidentally deleted some stuff out of my sandbox module, or it works for any module that you are a lecturer on, all you need to do is go into the URL here, and right at the top, you just want to do a / and write in undelete. And once I press enter there, oh, sorry, I'm acting as student, so that's what's happening there. And if I just press, hold on, let's try that again there, undelete. There we go. So we can see there, all I've done is added that / undelete, and straight away it's given me this new page here, and I can have the options to restore any of my deleted items there. So I can see this is anything that's been deleted from my module. I can see the dates that it's been created. I can see whether there are assignments. You can see there's a group down here. So some of the groups that I've deleted, quizzes, and anything that I need to restore, I can just click on that restore option. I'll get this little pop-up here saying, are you sure you want to restore this? I can press OK, and that's restored then into my Canvas module. So that's a really useful hack that we always like to recommend to people so they don't get in a panic if anything has been accidentally deleted when you're working on your module. So the next thing that I just want to show you here is some new coming soon features. So I'm working on these in our test instance of Canvas, and these will be available very soon in the normal instance of Canvas that everybody would have access to. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of it. So if we go into our discussions area here, it's basically just some enhancements that's been made, some nice small usability enhancements. It's been done to the discussion and the announcements. So I'll quickly show you those. So this is a discussion that I've made here already. To make a new discussion, you just press this new discussion button up here. I can press that there. Give my discussion a title. And I can write in whatever I need to write in here. So this is some text for a discussion. And this is obviously our rich content editor, so I'm able to use this the same way I normally would with any kind of previous discussion or announcement or our pages. So I can bold the text, I can add in some links, images, anything like that, that we can add in some media if we wanted to, or we could add in some H5P or anything kind of similar there. We then have the options that where we can post it to. So those are kind of the options that were there previously. And then some of the new things that have been added in here is we have some new options. So we have the anonymous discussions here. So I have the option to make it either off so that the students' names and profiles will be visible to everybody. We can have it as partial so that they can choose whether or not to reveal their name and profile photo, or we can have it as full anonymous, meaning that their student names and profile pictures will be hidden. It's worth noting that the lecturers can't go anonymous on this. They will still always show. This is just for the students. We also have some additional options here. So we have the users must post before seeing the replies. So that's an option that we can click there. We can enable the podcast feed, whether or not this is graded or ungraded. And then we can have whether we want to allow liking on this thread. And we can add it then to the students to do. So that's inside their calendar there. It'll pop up on the side in a to-do list for them. We also have the option then if we want to make this a group discussion. So I'm just going to jump back to the one that I already made just so I can show you one that's been populated already. So this one that I just made yesterday for the demonstration. So this is our discussion area. Please post your views on X for discussion. So you can see here that straight away there's some new things we can see. I now have these little tags beside my name to show that I'm the author of this post and that I'm also the teacher on this module. And then you can also see when it was made and when it was last edited. We have the options to reply there. So if I click that, I'll just get the rich content editor will pop up and give me the options to reply. And then we can see here that Roisin Garvey is another teacher on this module. She has replied to this and she agreed this topic. And one of the new things here is that we can actually see replies and we can see them nested then. And it's also telling me that I have one unread reply here. So if I click on that, I can see these nested replies. So this is the reply I wrote to Roisin to her reply. And then I can see that Sarah is a student on this module and she's wrote a reply to that reply. So it's just a nice way to keep everything in really good order there. And then another nice thing that's been incorporated is this option to quote. So I can quote that reply there. And that just means then when I reply to that, it'll the original post or the original reply will come up in quotation marks. Another nice thing you can also do here is we have the option to @ people. So if I just pop in the @ tag, I can then, mention people in this post. So if I wanted to say @ Roisin Garvey, and then she'd be notified that I've mentioned her in my reply here. And that's just a nice little overview of our discussions area. We can also have some options up here so I can actually search the entries or I can search the authors. So if you have a lot of discussion posts in your module, it's a nice, quick, easy way to search them. So I can search them by the entries or I could write in my name there or a student's name and we can see all of their posts and replies. We have this drop down here so we can view either all or we can view any unread. So that's nice and handy for students to be able to see anything that they've missed. And then we have the option, then we can sort them. So we can sort them newest first or oldest first. And we have the option to expand those threads as well. So the announcements has been quite similarly updated as well with some enhancements. So the same thing there, if I go to create a new announcement, it looks the same as before. No new announcement. This is our announcement. I have the options to post it. And then something that's really handy as well is that we can click this delay posting option. So this is a nice little hack. If you're getting everything ready and you have announcements that you know are going to go out in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, you can write that announcement up and you can delay the posting. So you can then choose when you want to post it, which day and which time, and that will be visible then to students from the time that you have selected. You also have the options here then, so you can allow your users to comment on it, or maybe you want to select the option that users must post before they can see any replies. We also have the options then to enable the podcast feed and allow liking. So this is the same as before. Once I publish that, we can see we get the author tag again, the teacher tag. We have these same options here as before, and we have those same reply options. So the two of these have been updated quite similarly, and they're really nice enhancements that we're going to be enabling in Canvas very soon. Oh, I'm just going to jump back out of our testing now, and I'm going to bring us back into our regular instance of Canvas. I'm going to go back into my own one there. Sorry, just letting that load up. And I'm going to jump over to my dashboard and into my own sandbox module then, just so I can show you. So a nice thing that we have here is the next hack that I want to show you is the Control K hack, okay? So what I want to do is if I make a new page here, anywhere that you can insert content, you can press the Control K option. So if I just hit that on my keyboard now, I straight away get this option to insert a link. So I can just add my text, whatever I want that to say, and I can insert my link there. So if I just put this as tell website, it.ie, and done, and I can see there straight away my link has been inserted. So it's really handy if you're copying and pasting a lot of links. You can use your Control C to copy and then your Control K, and you can get that pop up again and you can insert that wherever you can add content. You can add that inside of Canvas, so it's a nice quick feature there. I'm going to move on to our next hack now, which is going to be inside the grade book there. So sorry, I'm going to jump back out of this and I'm going to move us into a module that I have some other people enrolled on and that we have some grades in. So if I go into my grade book, this is one that we find is really helpful for lecturers and it's a really good time saver. So if I go in here and if I pick any of these, so these are all of my different assignments or different assessment types. And if I click on these three dots for some additional options, I can see all of our additional options here. And the one that I want to show you right now is our message students who. So if I click on this, I get this new box, which is a pop-up, and I can compose a message. So what I can do here is I have for students who, so this can be a message for students who have not yet submitted anything, who has not yet been graded, who had a score more than or a score less than. So it's really helpful. Obviously you can send out a message to anyone who has not submitted yet. You can see there's a total of 7 students in this module. And I can actually press this drop down here and I can see all those students' names. And then I can put the subject as wherever I like it to be. So right now it's set to no submission for the original assignment 1. And I can say, don't forget to submit before Friday at 5 p.m. And once I send out that message, it'll go to everybody's that's in this module who has not submitted yet. That'll go to inside their Canvas inbox. So they'll receive that message directly. And then so that would be the same thing for anybody who's not been graded or had scored more than or scored less than. So it would it's a nice way to either, praise people who have scored more than or, give a little bit of encouragement for people who have scored less than. And so the next feature that I'm going to show you now is we have our Canvas page rollbacks. So if I go into my home page here, or go into one of my pages, and if I just open this, and a nice feature that we can do is if I've been working on this, or if we have a couple of lecturers that are working on this module together, we can press on these three dots here, and we have this option here is the second one, and we can view the page history. So if I click on that, I can see here that I have my revision history of this page. So this will come up for any page, and it will show every change that's been made to the page since the beginning of its time. So if you're working on your page and you then save, it's every time you save it, it'll bring you back to the previous save point. So if I've been working on it and I save it out and then I realized actually something there is not right, or I liked the previous layout better, I can just open up the revision history, go to the previous version of it and click, and I can see, so this is telling me it's the same as the latest there, or I can, if it was different, then I'd have the option then to click OK, and it'll bring me back to the previous version of that page. So it's really handy for anything like that if you're working on something and you need to go back to the previous version of the page that's been saved. So that'll work in most of the pages in your Canvas module. And then so a similar one that we have then is the grade rollbacks as well. So if I jump back into my grade book here. So this kind of handy if you've accidentally entered the wrong grade into a column. So all you need to do is you just go into your grade book. You can click this little arrow here right next to where it says grade book, and then you have the option here to see your grade book history. So if I give that a click, and I can see here, I can put it in by student's name. So if I start typing in, say, my own name, for example, I can click on my name, and I can see then if I want to write in who the grader would be. So for this module, that could be myself or Roisin, both teaching on this module. This it's not real module, it's a made up module, but just for this instance, it's myself and Roisin that teach on it. So I could click either of us there. I could add in the artifact. So, that stands for whether it was a quiz, whether it was the attendance that they were getting marks for. It could be an assignment, or we could do it by the start date and end date. So if I just filter that there, and you can see that now all of my submissions there are popping up for me. And I can then see what the grade was before. I can see what the grade is after, and I can see the current grade, which then allows me to see what it was previously, and I can revert it back by going back into my grade book then and swapping it back to whatever I need it to be then. So those are just two really handy hacks that we find lecturers really appreciate. So that's your page rollbacks and your grade rollbacks. So the next thing then that I'm going to show you on our Canvas productivity hacks is going to be how to display multiple documents side by side using a table. So I'm already opened up this. This is just a blank page in my Canvas module. So I'm back in my sandbox module just to show you for demonstration purposes. I've just opened up a new page and gave it a title of tables. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to insert, and I'm going to insert a table. So what I can do here is, so these boxes represent a table. So if I click on this, it'll give me 2 rows and 2 columns. And what I can actually do here is I can insert a link. No, I'm going to insert a file, apologies. So I'm going to upload a document there, and I'm going to open up my desktop there, and I have 2 PDFs ready to go. So this is the first PDF I'm going to add in, and I'm going to submit that in there. So I can see here now my PDF is come up as a link like this. So what I want to do next is I want to click on that and go to my link options. And then I get my display options available here. So right now it's going to preview and overlay. So just to give you the example of that, if I exit that for a second and save it out. When I click on this, it opens like this in basically like a new overlay tab, which isn't exactly what I want to show you. So I'm going to show you now what this does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back into this, go into my link options, and I'm going to preview it inline instead. And I'm going to press done there. And so I want to show them side by side. This is really helpful if you want students to be able to compare documents. So I'm going to add in another document there and submit that. I'm going to do the same thing again. Click on that link, go to my link options and preview that in line again. And so what this means now, if I save that one out again, if I click on this now, it's opening inside of that table for me. I can click that one as well. And this one's also now opening in the table. And so you can see these look a little bit similar, but they're actually on two different topics here, which will allow me as a student to be able to go in and compare and contrast these documents. So that's just a really good hack that we think is helpful for if you need students to be able to preview these documents inside of a table, or if you need them to view two or more documents at the same time. I'm going to jump back to our home page. I'm going to actually go to my units here. The next hack that I just want to show you is how to reorder your modules and your assignments. Sorry, I'll go into our Tell New Media one because this one has some more content available in it. So we can see here that we have these labeled as our week 1, week 2, week 3. So that's fine. If, for instance, we decided these topics will actually be taught in the first week, I can just drag and drop that whole unit there. So you can see these little dots here on the side. Once I hover over them, my cursor changes and I get a little pop-up to say that I can drag to reorder these units. So if I drag that up here, I can it's really simply and easily reorder the modules. Reorder the units. And then inside the units, I can also reorder the assignments or anything that we need there. So our module overview, if I wanted that to actually be in this week, then I can just drag and drop them into the order that I prefer for this module. And finally, the last Canvas hack that I'm going to go through with you there is video recording in Canvas. So there's a couple of different ways to do this here. So the first one so obviously video and audio, it can be recorded directly into Canvas. So you can use your webcam and your microphone. So you can do this in the Canvas inbox, in the announcements, in the pages, and in SpeedGrader. So I'll just bring us into a page there really quickly. And I'll open up a new page. And we can call this one video message. And so I can record my audio directly in here. So I can upload or record a media here. So if I just click on that one, I get the option to either upload a file that I have previously, or I can record directly. So I can see here now my video is starting. I'm getting this audio feed here, so I can see how loud I am speaking at, and I can start that recording there. And once I'm finished, I can upload that directly into my Canvas module. So this is really, really helpful. If you want to, you could use it to do a welcome message at the start of class if you needed to explain different aspects of an assignment or anything, or like that. If you wanted to use it as the inbox feature, you could do that also. And as I showed you earlier, when you're doing your message students who inside the gradebook, you also have that option as well to record a media directly into that as well. So if you go there, message students who, and you have the options here to record an audio here. So instead of typing a message, I could also have the option to do a little video message to any students who, any of these things, you know. So you could do a well done message, or you could just do any kind of message to any students who've not submitted, or if they've not been graded or anything yet. So those are my list for my Canvas productivity hacks. I hope they were really helpful for you. So I'm just going to pass it over to my colleague Shane now. I'm going to stop my share and I'll allow him to share his screen. Thanks a million, everybody.
Thanks a million, Lauren. I really like those last ones that you did actually there, the video or audio recording, because they do appear in a few different parts of Canvas, but as we know, they're really useful for creating some rich feedback in the grades area. So thanks for that, Lauren. I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to pick up where Lauren left off there, I'm just going to talk to you about some Zoom productivity hacks. And if we have time, just a couple of Microsoft ones as well there. So what we're going to cover in this short segment are these. So schedule options, slide and slide control, audio and video settings, background effects, accessibility, whiteboards, annotation, and recording edits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my desktop here, and I'll run through a few settings with you. What I'm going to start with first is a scheduling. So if I was to schedule a meeting in through either Canvas or through your Zoom profile online, you can enable this feature called registration. So a lot of you are probably aware of this already, but if you wanted something like a small conference or a meeting where you wanted to get people to register so that you have a tally of who's there and you have a way of reminding them, you can enable the setting. And what this does is when you save it and you have your time and everything else set up, you can go down here and go to the edit function at the bottom of the screen where registration is, and you get the ability to either automatically or manually approve people that register for your event. So why it's useful is, I suppose, you get a tally of the people that have registered for your event, and you have a way of communicating them with them as well. But the other really useful thing as well is that you can set up custom questions. So there are kind of standard questions here in terms of name and so on like that, but you also have custom questions. So if you had a specific event and you had specific requirements, for example, if it was only something like catering requirements, you could add those in there, and you have short or single answer question types in there. So that's quite straightforward. You can automatically approve, so you don't have to be approving people constantly. Manually, I suppose, is it if you had something that was externally facing potentially, and you have the ability then to send a notification. Closing the registration as well, useful, and restricting numbers. So if you had a venue that had a capacity of a certain amount of participants, for example, average size room maybe 20 or so, you could change, or you could limit that to an upper limit of 20, and then registration would close off, and you can close it off after the event date as well. So that's just quite a useful tool. One thing to note, I suppose, is if you are using this, you will need to change the authentication settings if it's an event that has external participants. What I mean by external participants is people basically outside of MTU that are not authenticating through IDP the way we would for our email and everything else. So you change the authentication setting here to all authenticated users, and that allows those people to participate then. Okay, so that's that one. I wanted to show you something around slide control and PowerPoints, because I suppose we demonstrate slides quite a lot in our teaching and learning practice, I suppose, across the university. And I thought it would be useful maybe to show you an example of basically kind of going through a presentation where we can actually enable slide control features. So just give me a moment there, and I'm going to open up my PowerPoint slides here separately. Just going to open up a recent guy. Okay, and I'm going to share this. So this is based basically on a PowerPoint slide deck that my colleagues, Christina and Ruth, did earlier. And if you missed it, it was a really good session. The recording is available there on YouTube, and we'll send out links, but it was all around design principles and improving your slide design. But what we can do with our slides, if we're co-presenting slides, we can enable this slide control feature. And just a note that this control feature only works when you go into presentation mode in your presentation. So just very briefly, I'm going to play my slideshow here, and I can go through my slides here. But Lauren, if you want to kind of progress through a couple of them there, you can as well. Yeah, so Lauren is controlling the other slides there. So if you're doing a kind of co-presenting, basically, you can enable that setting. Really useful, I suppose, if you have student groups presenting together, 2 or 3 in a group, for example. And I think that's a nice tool to enable that to happen, rather than kind of saying to someone, "Oh, you change the size now," if you're co-presenting. The other thing I wanted to show you is that it's actually in the advanced settings. If you go to share your screen in advanced, you have an option to set your slides as a virtual background. So I'm just going to choose that feature there. I'm going to use the same slide deck. Excuse me. And eventually, yeah, my slides should show up, and actually you can see myself there kind of superimposed over the slide deck. What this allows you to do is allows you to import your PowerPoint into Zoom and toggle through it, and you're kind of put down here, then it takes your background out and you're able to kind of talk over the slide. So that's a nice one if you don't want to mess around with kind of sharing your desktop or sharing an application. And it works quite nicely in terms of rendering out your presentation in Zoom. Now, so the other thing I'm just going to share with you. So I'll just share this guy for the moment, so we have something to share at least. Second now. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to show you is an app. It's the timer app, and this is available as one of the Zoom applications you can enable in Zoom. So if you go to the apps menu item on the bottom of your screen, or if you're sharing on the top of the screen, you can actually enable a timer. And so the timer function is really useful for when you want to have a timer for things like student presentations and stuff like that. Often I find myself, using something like a Google Timer or a stopwatch or something on my phone. Oftentimes, actually, it's useful for your students to keep their own time. But if you want to display the time on screen, you can do something like this, basically. I'm just going to stop share a second, share something else. And I'm not sure, Lauren, if you're seeing a timer on your screen, but if you're not, maybe it's because we're in webinar mode. But there is a timer app. Basically, you have a few different.
It's counting down on your photo. So where your video is of you talking,
yeah.
we can see it counting there.
Yeah. So I suppose you can also have that in what you're sharing as well. But I'll leave that one. To enable it, though, you go to your apps and you go to the timer app there, and there's another few apps available for Zoom as well, but that's quite a useful one, I think, in terms of presenting. Okay, so I'm going to just share my full screen here now a second. And the other thing I wanted to show you are basically just some settings that you have available to you in your Zoom client. So we have audio settings and video settings. So hopefully all of you are familiar with the audio settings. Basically, if you have any doubt as to what your levels are like for a headset or for a desktop microphone or for your inbuilt microphone on your laptop or your desktop, you can get to change the levels, basically. So I have quite a good readout here. So you can see where the green is. If it's kind of going down to the red or to the orange here, you're kind of getting a low input, and you either need to up the volume, or you can basically, down the volume. The other option here is to automatically adjust microphone volume, and most of the time it'll do a good job of that. But if it doesn't, depending on the device you're using, you can actually use the adjust microphone volume automatically option there. Another few useful options in here are to do with background noise suppression. So if you're in a shared office environment where you have a lot of background speech, you might want to enable the high background noise suppression option, and that'll do a pretty good job of suppressing that noise. Lots of us do have noise in our environments, and these, automatic will automatically adjust it. But if you're very, very sure of a certain noise type, you can go from low to medium to high, and that works quite well. For anyone that's working with, more specialized audio hardware, like, good microphones or good audio peripherals, you might want to enable the original sound for musicians. And that's kind of a setting really just for more higher fidelity audio coming from your audio devices, rather than letting kind of Zoom compress all of that for you, which it kind of does by default anyway. So if you have a really good microphone, it's good to maybe look at the original sound option, and that'll let you capitalize on that. The other thing to note down here, if you kind of scroll down, is you have the ability as well to mute your mic when entering or joining a meeting. And that I find really useful because oftentimes you can come into a meeting, and depending on how it's set up, you don't want to be heard right away, or you don't want to be seen maybe as well, which is part of the video setting by default. So you can make that a default for yourself by hitting that button there, that radio button. In terms of video options, then you have different options. So you can obviously, if you mirror your video, it'll actually kind of correct it depending on what way you're looking at the screen. So if you're looking directly at the screen, you'll typically need to mirror the video. There's an option there to touch your appearance up. So if you want to kind of soften your facial features, especially if you had any very harsh light in a room or something like that, you can adjust that, and that'll actually soften your skin tones. Adjusting for low light is actually quite useful if you're in a particularly low light situation as well. As I say, you have the stop my video when joining a meeting option as well. So like the audio counterpart, that'll just stop or mute you and hide you basically if you're entering a meeting, so you don't have that possibility of being heard and seen when you just land into a meeting, particularly if you're landing in a bit late into a meeting or a class, for example. Okay, so that's those. Background effects then are quite standard. So you have blur, which you're all probably aware of. That's available in Teams as well. And you also have the ability to add custom backgrounds if you want to, using that plus icon there. So that's those. Accessibility options. So I'm not sure if any of you use closed captioning or encourage your students to, but in terms of universal design or just accessibility in general, it's a good idea to encourage the use of captions, of live captions, or to use captions in recordings as well if students want that additional visual cue and to follow what's going on. So for live sessions, you can actually make your captions quite much larger if you want to. And you can just customize that basically to take up as much space as you want it to. And then from a learner point of view, all you need to do is to tell them to enable the captions option, which is one of the buttons in the bottom of their Zoom screen. Okay, so that's those couple of tips or hacks. Another one that you might be aware of is a relatively new feature called the Whiteboards feature. So I would say the Whiteboards feature is quite similar to a tool called Miro that you might be familiar with. People tend to pronounce it different ways, Miro, which is a kind of a whiteboarding collaboration tool. Now, very handily for us, we have whiteboards now integrated quite well into Zoom. So if you want to share a whiteboard, you can go to share your screen and hit the whiteboard option, and you'll just basically get a whiteboard like this. So we have available in in Zoom a number of sort of annotation tools if we want to use them that way. Just gonna just stop that share a second and come back. So my whiteboard is up. Okay. And what we can do is we can use all the usual, features of a whiteboard, but you can also bring in pre-populated whiteboards if you want to. No, just I suppose in terms of your settings and your tools here, your standard stuff, you can draw on screen, you can use the spotlight, which you can use actually as an annotation tool as well, quite useful for kind of pointing out things. You can erase any content like that, and you can also select and type and stuff like that. But what I'm going to try and do here, and I was able to do it a minute ago, is I'm going to load up a whiteboard from a template. So just give me a second here. Okay. So when I'm actually opening up whiteboards, I have the ability to actually choose from a number of whiteboard templates. And this works in a similar way to something like Miro in that it'll load up these different templates that you can use and populate collaboratively. So I've enabled a feature there for Lauren to be able to basically add stuff into those sticky notes as we're going along. So, whatever your goals are, and so on. And basically, you can use this live. But the other thing you can do is you can also share this link out in Canvas afterwards, where it can live on as a living and breathing, basically whiteboard. So what you can do is you can work from all of the templates, customize them. You can export them if you want to as PDFs or PNGs, but you can also share your link so that that board is still workable. Particularly if you had an online session where students were catching up afterwards, they're able to use that after the session. So that's all available through your whiteboards area. And I think we'll share a link with you there as well that has a very comprehensive rundown of the whiteboards feature, a lot more than I've just done with you there, that goes through all of the different features and how you share and collaborate and use templates and so on. So I would encourage people to use that. I think it's quite a nice collaborative tool and it works well for a lot of different situations. So I'm going to close my whiteboard here. I'm going to go on to my next thing, which is basically shortcuts. So I'm a big fan of shortcuts in Zoom and other apps because they just make you a bit more productive, basically, and quicker or agile. So I'm just going to share with you a few useful shortcuts on screen here. So these are worth getting used to, even if you want to just print them out and pin them as a little poster or note for yourself on your desk. So you can show hide meeting controls using the Alt button on your keyboard. Alt A is useful for muting and unmuting. So really useful because a lot of us end up doing that quite a lot with our online sessions. Alt C will allow you to start and end cloud recording. So again, if you're not setting up automatic recording on a session or a class, you can basically kind of pause it and start your recording. Then you have the switch your camera. So to switch when you're using multiple sources. So for example, if you're using a document camera and your own webcam or something else, you can switch between camera sources using Alt N. So that'll be useful in kind of maybe more hybrid situations. And then Alt F is to enter or leave full screen view. So again, if you're kind of in a live session and someone else is kind of doing the sharing, you can kind of leave full screen view with a simple kind of a shortcut combination there. Right, so there are a few of the Zoom ones. We probably have a lot more from our people that are viewing. If there's anything you'd like to share, please do let us know. We'll be sharing this on Twitter and through email and stuff. So if anyone has any feedback on things that work for them in terms of Canvas or Zoom, that feedback would be much appreciated. On Microsoft apps, I just have a couple to note really. There is one caveat, I suppose. So I'm just going to share my full desktop here a second and just show you basically all the different types of apps that are available in MTU. Now, all of these mightn't be on your dashboard in your Office 365 environment. So if you're logging into your email, you get this menu button up here on the left, and you're going to see all your different apps. Some of them you can request from IT services if you're interested in them. A lot of these you mightn't see by default, but it's relatively straightforward to request them from our colleagues. The one I wanted to talk about in terms of productivity, and it kind of links in with a few different apps, is the To-Do app. And To-Do was previously an app called Wunderlist, which Microsoft actually took over a few years ago. It was really quite a good tool then. And I think, in fairness, Microsoft have developed it and maintained it, and it is still quite a good tool. And basically, it's just a task management tool, a list management tool. Now, there's a few ways that this tool manifests itself. So if you create tasks, they can actually be seen in your email client, so your Outlook client. So if you're in Outlook, you can actually, draw out a kind of a menu that shows you your to-do lists, and you can link your to-dos as well with things like emails that you want to read and so on. To-do also links in with something called Planner, which is a kind of a light project management tool. And I think we're going to run a few dedicated sessions on a few of these in the near future. But I just wanted to kind of just give you a kind of a brief view of To-Do to begin with, and then a couple of useful PowerPoint tips as well. Not to kind of double up on stuff that Christina and Ruth did earlier in the day, but they're just two nice features that we've come across recently. So for To-Do, it's basically something like this, and you also get an app that you can get for your mobile phone, for your smartphone, so you can get the To-Do app. I think it works particularly well on your mobile. So if you want to use it as a kind of a list management tool, it's quite useful for daily tasks. If you want to set up tasks and set reminders for tasks. So, if you're adding a task, you can just put it in like this. You can reorder your tasks. And then you can also add recurring tasks. And you can schedule things. So it's useful because you get a way of reminding yourself of certain things. But I think it becomes particularly powerful when you actually share it with collaborators. So if you're working on a project with someone, you can share a list with them, and you can actually both collaborate on that list. The flagged email is if you flag an email in your Outlook client, it'll actually appear in your to-do list as well. So it kind of appears in a few different places, and you can put a reminder on that if you wanted to. Your day is the stuff that you actually have scheduled for a particular day, especially if you have a due date in mind for it. And important then is anything you flag as important, so you can star items as well. If you're looking for a really useful daily grocery list management tool as well, this is quite useful. I use this myself, and myself and my wife actually just share the same list and cross off items. And look, the same principles apply for any type of list that you might be managing or sharing. So that's To-Do, and To-Do works within the Office 365 suite of applications. The two last features I wanted to show you are basically PowerPoint related. So you're probably aware that Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all those tools have basically web versions that you can access through your browser. And if you go up to the top here, there's a couple of nice features. So one is actually called Live Present Live. So if you go to Present Live, it will give you a kind of this nice animation that has a QR code on it, and that QR code can be scanned by participants. So if you see it there, you can actually scan it, and this will let you know, the application will let you know then who's joined. So I suppose why this is useful is you can make it a bit more collaborative or participative. So your students scan this maybe in a classroom situation, and then you can go through your slides and they follow on with the slides. So basically, if they had a smartphone in the classroom, they'll see exactly what you're seeing, and you get a kind of a bit more of a collaborative and participative situation there. And then you can end your session. The other thing that's quite useful up here, and just let me have a quick look here, in the present area, is rehearse with coach. And this basically allows you to rehearse your PowerPoints and actually get a bit of feedback on how you're doing. So if you're maybe reading out all the slides verbatim, or you're going too fast, or there were certain things or cues that this tool will pick up on, you get a report on it afterwards. So if I was to rehearse, it will record my voice. I can talk to designing principles to improve your slide design and go through it as I would normally. Speaking about design principles, now it's already telling me that I'm using too much. We do that a lot in Cork, I think. What are the design principles? Again, it's flagging that. 5 basic design principles most relevant to presentation design, visual hierarchy, etc., etc. When you come out of that, then you get a kind of a report, and it kind of just talks to you about just giving you a few different tips along the way. So, what was the total time spent on the actual presentation? Try not using too much. Repetitive language is okay. Inclusiveness, and your pace. So whether you were using a kind of an okay pace, you were going too fast or too slow. So that's the presentation coach option there, or rehearse with coach. But I think the Present Live tool is really useful, particularly if you want to have it in a classroom situation that you're maybe not using something like Zoom, but you do want to make your content a bit more accessible to students who want to follow on with it and to see it more and to be able to interact with it more as well. So I think that's us, Lauren. I think we've got slightly over time as well. So thanks very much to everyone for staying with us. I'm not sure, have we any questions? If anyone has any, maybe throw them into the Q&A or the chat in YouTube. But one thing to note, I suppose, is that we'll be doing a lot more dedicated sessions on Microsoft applications, particularly as their students are going to be joining us and using Microsoft apps, I think, earlier or later on in the semester. So that's a positive, I think, and that should open up a lot of teaching and learning tools that we can use in the Microsoft context. So I'm not sure if anything came in there so far, Lauren.
No questions yet. No, we're all good.
Okay, sure. Look, if anyone has, let us know. We'll post the recording to you via email there after this. And mind yourselves. I hope you have a good week and a good inter-semester break, more importantly.